Make sure that you have built out specific services pages because that's typically the way people are searching that are ready to take action. You also want to make sure, your website's mobile friendly because how many people are using phones these days? We got to get that in order. And as you start to add content to your website, like if you start to blog or anything like that, ask yourself, what are the 3 to 5 most common questions I get asked all the time? If there are continual conversations that you have over and over again, that makes amazing content for your website. And it provides people with the information they're actually looking for.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and turn them into cash-based multimillionaire entrepreneurs. Warning, if you're a doctor who listens to this podcast regularly, you will make millions of dollars. Do not listen to this podcast unless you want to be a successful clinic owner who helps thousands of patients achieve their health goals and adds more money than you can imagine to your bank account. You've been warned.
Welcome to the Super Clinic Project Podcast, where we take regular clinic owners and we turn them into super clinic owners. I'm one of your hosts, Jennifer Gligoric, and today we are here with a really great guest that can finally answer all of your questions about the enigma that is SEO. She's the founder of Propel Marketing and Design and the host of the Clinic Marketing Podcast. She's presented for the Chiropractic Success Academy, Modern Chiropractic Marketing Mastermind, a featured guest for the Acupuncture Marketing Podcast. She knows a lot about marketing, guys, much more. So let's give a huge super clinic welcome to Darcy Sullivan. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here.
I am, because you have our love, our clinic owners, and they and you understand how challenging it is for them. And we work in a space mostly with Facebook and ads and things, and that we're always asked about SEO, but we kind of don't do the SEO. So it's so great to be able to pick your brain today and talk to you about this. But I want to find out a little bit more about you. Tell me a little bit how you got started in this. Tell us a little about you, Darcy.
Sure, love to. Well, I don't want to date myself, but I went to college at Purdue University. And when I was in school, we were learning about AI before AI was a thing. We were learning about how to program these websites when literally I had only turned on a computer, I think, once before I got to college. And all of a sudden, we were thrown into like the world of what the future holds. And I find it so interesting because everybody's always talking about AI today. But back when we were programming our first websites, that I was working on at least, in the late 90s, early 2000s, we were even talking about it back then. We were just using some different words. And once I got out of college, I went to corporate America. From corporate America, I started my own company. Once I started my own company, we started working with a lot of clinic owners, and we really kind of started to niche down into helping clinic owners with their SEO because it's so important. And yet there's so much information out there that it can feel like you're drinking water from a fire hose. And so our goal is to really just simplify things.
Okay, so let's start out. SEO. There is often a big confusion between SEO and ads. So SEO, search engine optimization, which is what we're talking about. Tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, what is SEO and how does that differentiate when a client comes to you and they're confused about the difference between a website builder, an SEO specialist, or an ad person? So tell us what SEO actually does for those who might still be confused about that.
So when we're talking about SEO, we're talking about organic. And there's a lot of confusion, as you mentioned, because there's ads, which are people are paying for paying to play, paying for the positions where they're at. Then we have local SEO. We have your Google Maps ranking, which is controlled by your Google business profile listing. And then we also have the organic rankings on search when somebody goes to Google and types in, chiropractor near me or orthodontist near me. And so our goal is to help people with the local rankings. And while it can sound kind of confusing when everybody's like, how do we get started? What is this? I like to keep things simple. And so one day years ago, I was eating an Oreo cookie,
I love it.
right? And I was like, oh my gosh, I love that this is the simple way that I can explain SEO to somebody. Are you ready?
I am. I'm totally ready for this.
Okay. So you know how an Oreo cookie has two cookie wafers and then the stuff, which is actually called stuff, in the middle. So I always explain SEO as this. You have actions that you take on your website to help you rank online. You have actions that you take outside of your website to help you rank online. And then you have that sweet stuff in the middle that holds it all together. And that's knowing your target audience, knowing the keywords and phrases that they're using and how they're searching online. And when you put that together, you get a cute little SEO Oreo, if you will.
Oh, okay. I'm going to be thinking about SEO like an Oreo now. This has nothing to do with anything, but back a very long time ago, I lived in Oklahoma, and there was a gypsum, the actual rock factory, and that rock got pulverized, and they added sugar and things to it, and that's what the stuffing's made out of.
Really?
Yeah, there's lots of nutrients in it. I mean, it's not bad for you, but it's an actual pulverized rock.
How interesting. Now I'm never going to be able to forget that part of it.
Right. I will remember the Oreo, not the rock part, but that's SEO. Okay, so so that sounds great, but that's still, I can see most clinic owners, they'll talk about spinal stenosis for 2 hours, right? But then something like this, their eyes are going to glaze over, because what they want to know is, well, what does that mean for me? How do me, as this small clinic owner or business, improve my online presence?
So it starts with that sweet stuff that we just now found out relates to rocks in the middle, where you really have to hone in on who is your target audience, which is the basics of marketing, right? Who is your target audience? What words are they using? Because we do that all the time when we talk to clients and they're like, oh, well, we focus on appendages. And I'm like, nobody is ever like, my appendage is hurting. So
I can tell you, I want to stop you right here. So what we do is we'll do a marketing strategy with someone, and they'll be like, no, I want to focus on, let's say something like posture.
Yeah.
I know that posture is the cause of everyone's problem. I'm a posture expert, and they'll want to put posture in there. And we have several. And are they right? Is posture the cause of a lot of? Yes, it is. You're right. And the people that are experts in this make transformative care in their patients, but that's not the SEO that you would use. That's not the keyword. You wouldn't want to put that in ads. No one is searching for this. So a good thing is to ask, how did you find us? What were you looking for?
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be back pain or knee pain or something, so
Right.
for our people, it's going to be that, or wrinkles, or, well, I would just search for Botox, and that's how I found your med spa or whatever it was. Anyway, I didn't mean to stop you on that, but she's right. Listen to this, everybody.
You are exactly right. And again, this is like where it comes down to some of the fundamentals for SEO are similar to the fundamentals of ads, right? It's who's your target audience, what keywords and phrases are they using, what and how are they searching, right? Because it used to be that SEO just focused on ranking your website, but now it's also your Google business profile, which is what controls your Google Maps listing, which is extremely important. So once you've figured out the sweet stuff in the middle that we talked about, then you have actions that you take on your website, like making sure that your website is optimized. And there are ways to do that, to DIY that. And there are ways to outsource that to professionals. And then there's the stuff outside of your website, which always involves, again, your Google business profile listing, which everybody is so curious about these days, and how to amplify their results with that.
Yeah. And we have some people who are like, oh, I've never even looked at that. Well, if you're a local business, you really do need to look at it. It's getting more and more important with that. Would you give any tips for someone who has not looked at it? So this is a better question. What's the biggest mistake you see that a small business makes with like their Google profile?
So with the Google profile, there's a couple. One, not taking any action. Two, not checking on it regularly because Google will suggest an edit or somebody else can suggest an edit. So there was, it's so sad to say, but there was a scam going around like a couple months ago where kids basically were going in and moving people's locations because you can just suggest an edit.
Uh,
So all of a sudden, there were a lot of legitimate companies where their location had been moved, and you can only imagine how that's going to hurt business if your potential patient's ready to come in and they just go on Google and they're like, "Hey, your location isn't where it says it is anymore." So checking in on things, making sure that you have accurate information, making sure that you've provided as much information that you can. I think a lot of people try to get like 100% score, which isn't needed when it tells you like how much information you filled out. But you do want to supply as much information as possible. Make sure that you're selecting the proper business category as your primary category. And then if you do have additional services that would fall under other categories, we always suggest that you select an additional category or two that's going to amplify your reach, making sure that your NAP, which is your name, address, and phone number, needs to be correct on that listing and on all other listings, because that's a signal to Google this is a legitimate business.
and they all hold hands with one another.
They
So
all squish into that little Oreo cookie.
yeah, they all, oh yeah, the squishing the Oreo cookie. So with that, we've had people who are like, what do I do about a 1-star review? I had somebody who, well, we have people who will get 1-star reviews, but the people were never even their customers. And they're like,
Yeah.
who are you? Or it's just like bizarre. Like, I wanted this to be a dentist, but they're not. They only work on backs. And they gave a 1-star review, and
Yeah.
it was like that. Or I mean, it was like a completely different business, but then it stayed up. So
So one, don't engage with them
mm,
unless, well, one, I am not a professional when it comes to HIPAA compliance and what each individual clinic needs to do based on what they were guided towards.
mm,
If somebody says something like we've had people be like, "Oh, I was mad that the dog water bowl dish wasn't out in front." And you're like, "You never came into the establishment." Like it has absolutely nothing to do. You can respond with something like, "I think you have us confused with the location next door." If it's a very Captain Obvious, they weren't even in our location, that's okay.
mm.
Otherwise, don't engage. Just report it and don't engage. That's the best suggestions that I have when it comes to that. Obviously, people are going to leave bad reviews. Like it's just unfortunately we live in a time and place where people don't realize how that affects businesses and they don't necessarily give thought to it. So you do want to make sure that you proceed with caution. Again, if it's like a complete like, "Oh, well, they didn't give me breadsticks with my pasta," and you're like, "We're an orthodontist, why would we?" You can respond very like, "I think you
Yeah.
have us mixed up with somebody else." But again, if it's above that and it's harsh, just report it, don't engage.
Yeah, I've seen people get into fights on that. And then, of course, it turns into a meme and you see it on TikTok, like, ha, ha, ha. But then you're like, golly, that's the worst, right? You don't
It's
want to
the
get known
worst.
for the people who got real petty. It's
Yeah.
funny, especially if you're fun, like, how when Wendy's is their social media are so petty and they'll go on to like Burger King and they'll make these little snark comments, but that's very different. That's kind of this massive brand, what they're known for. They're very good at the tongue-in-cheek part of it.
Yeah.
Local businesses, you probably aren't as polished as you think you are. So just don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's other examples. Like there was a ski resort that somebody left a 1-star saying that the slope was too difficult, and they took out like a big full page ad. Like Dan says our slope is too extreme. Come try it out for yourself. Like there are industries where it's okay to to have some fun with it, and there are industries where it is not okay to have fun with
Yeah,
it.
like the
Yeah.
restaurant one I saw, come have the worst sandwich that
Yeah.
Barb ever tasted, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, stuff like that. That would be funny. I would go in there and just laugh at that. But you cannot do that, if you're going for healthcare, right?
Right.
You have to know the audience then. So if you have a let's say you're just starting out. Most of our clinics are pretty established, and then we have like massive clinics. But we do have a couple of those clinics out there are starting out. They've got a very small budget. How can they work with that without either outsourcing or if they're like, I can't do it myself. There's two different questions. Number one, can you do it without outsourcing? And two, if you have a small budget, where is the best bang for your buck with that small budget?
Great question. So one, if you're going to DIY it, there are a number of website platforms that are more user friendly than they were 10, 15 years ago. We have a program called Ready, Set, Rank, and within it, we have specific for clinic owners templates for some of those core key pages that you need on your website. So I would say if you're going to DIY it, find the right resources and the right information. Focus on core pages. And we say this whether you have a small budget and you're having somebody help you set up a website or you're setting it up on your own. Besides the privacy policy in terms of use, which I'm not going to give any suggestions on because I'm not a lawyer, you need your homepage, your about, your what we call your general services, like what are the services you offer, a big beefy page on that. And then if you have any specific services that are really your money makers, you want individual pages on those because you're focusing on that keyword phrase for that specific service on that specific page.
Mm.
Then your contact, your booking, you want to make sure it's as easy as possible for somebody to make an appointment with you. So if you have a website set up and they're filling out a form and then somebody's waiting till they get the form and then trying to call somebody back and then not getting somebody on the phone and then there's a huge runaround, that's really going to interfere with your bottom line. So even though that's not exactly directly related to the website design and SEO, it is related to your website converting. So you want to make it as easy as possible for somebody to book an appointment with you as well.
Yeah, we talk a lot about friction. You don't want there to be a lot of friction in the process. You don't
Yeah.
want to automatically. We have so many clinics that automatically everybody goes to voicemail. You're going to lose people with that because the person next door, if they get a friendly, you know, ABC clinic, this is Jennifer, who am I speaking with? Then automatically that clinic's taking control. They'll get that button, that seat, and they're going to be able to help that person. Whereas you just have an automated thing and you'll get back to them whenever. So you want
Now,
to release
th-
that.
that's an interesting point because you can look at your insights from your Google business profile listing to see what time of
Oh,
day more people are calling. You can look at your Google Analytics to see what days of the week and what time more people are coming to your website to make sure that you're staffed up at that time so that there are people answering the phone, especially if you see an influx, let's just say at lunchtime, because that's when people are running their errands. Well, then, or they're, taking care of all of the things they need to take care of during their lunch break, then you know that you want to have somebody available to answer the phones at that time.
that is really good advice. I didn't even think about that would be another source to go to figure out when your hot time is for people looking at it. Now, I don't think a lot of people get that. And so you can look at that yourself, but then if you have someone working with you, they will provide that, or you have to specifically ask for that, right? Like, can you tell me, is there a hot time? And
Yeah, I mean that's one thing with analytics. Your Google Analytics is a free tool, which all websites should have. Again, it can feel like you're drinking water from a fire hose. So it does help if you have somebody walk through with you exactly where to find the specific information that you're looking for, or if you're working with a company, ask them for specific reports like that to help you along your way. And again, your Google business profile listing, you can go in there and look in the insights on that to see what days of the week people are calling in, when they're clicking on your website, what key phrases people are searching for. That'll give you a lot of information to work with.
So when you're vetting someone, and what are the smart questions to ask? Because a lot of people just like it just seem good. They seem like they know what they're doing. The price is right, right? It's a commodity. But let's say you're at the point where you're like, I just don't want to shop by price. I actually need people to be doing something, and I need to level up my business. And I really want a company that can do that. In this space, the SEO space, what are good questions to ask, and what should you get back from a response?
So questions to ask include, what is your process? There's no quality company that is going to promise you certain rankings. If they do, run.
Ah,
You want to ask them, how is this going to tie into the rest of our marketing campaign? Because if you're working with a company and they're providing quality content, how are you going to you should be able to then leverage that for social media, for your email blast. So it should be a win-win-win. You're winning with SEO, you're winning with having additional content that you're then able to use through social, through email, through other avenues. So I would ask them, what's the process? What makes you different than other companies? What can I expect? What's the timeline? And get an idea of what their process is. Just like how your company functions differently than other companies that would be your competitors, all different SEO companies are going to function differently, whether they make you sign a long-term commitment or do it as a project basis, or if they're setting up your website. If you have somebody setting up your website and they say that it's going to be SEO friendly, which I always like to use in quotation marks, you've got to ask them, well, what does that mean? Okay. So those are some of the good questions I would start with.
I think another one was, how do I communicate with you? How do you prefer to communicate with me? What reports do you provide me? And will I get guidance on what these reports mean? Also, too, is there a dashboard where I can check on things without you, and then if I have questions? I think a lot of times you just don't want to wait, because what happens, and we know this, and I know you know this with clients, is, you sign up with a company, and this can be any type of company, and then there's this initial really rah welcome, whatever, and then you just don't really talk to them again. And then they send you an email a month, and you don't really know what's going on. Now, is it always their fault? Probably not. You should be the one driving it too, because this is a partnership. Every time you do this is a partnership. But I would say you have, as advice for any of our clinic owners, you want to be proactive in your processes. And so if it can't be you as the clinic owner, because you're trying to pull yourself out, be more of a CEO and think like a shareholder, and then think like a CEO, and then think like, your other hats you have to put on. You want to make sure, if you have an office manager or someone doing that, that they ask those questions, that you give them that authority, and that you let the vendor know, this is the person that is going to handle this. They're going to be my liaison for that. And that way you can just go to one person and they're handling other ones.
And let them know, like, what if you have new services that you're coming out with in the next 3 to 6 months, so they can prepare. If you have maybe a couple of services that you're not really seeing the revenue for, but you could, like, let them know what specific services are more of a revenue generator than others, because it's not just what brings somebody in for the first time, which is also important, but it's also, who do you want to be known as? What type of business do you want to be known as? What specific services do you really want to highlight and focus on?
Yeah, because let's go back to like a med spa space, right? Most people will search for Botox or wrinkle remover or something, but let's say you really can take 10 years off because you have this very holistic approach. Let's say, look at like Lindsay Lohan or Gwen Stefani or Demi Moore. They've went to someone who does a lot, like literally everything. They've got dermaplane, they've got laser, they've gotten the stuff, they've gotten everything, right? And that's why they look like this other person now, right?
Yeah.
But if that's what you want to get known for, but you're only getting the Botox people, well, there's going to be a huge disconnect between
Right.
you and your true core offer. Same as if you are someone whose specialty is getting people out of serious pain from a car injury, or they have spinal stenosis or something like that, and you have a program where you can increase mobility by so much percent if they follow your process within a couple of months, but yet you're only going to get people who just need an adjustment. Well, there's a disconnect. And so the more you can dial in to your avatar of really what your purpose and what you're providing to the world, and give that information to your partner, your SEO partner, the more they'll be able to work for you. Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely. I think though that there was something interesting that you said there that I see sometimes with some clinic owners where they want a patient for life and they have like a drawn out process. And while that's amazing that you can get them there at this many different stages, if you are trying to attract the client that is just like, I'm in pain right now and want to get out of pain, if they're shopping around, they don't want to look for something that it looks like is going to take them 12 months.
Very
So
important.
so you do have to be careful with that. That
Darcy is
is,
spot on with this. You
yeah,
want to talk about your core offer to get them there, because wellness is different. We all,
right.
I mean, you can say patient for life, but what you're really meaning is they're going to come in once a month, and just like they have to diet and they have to exercise, this is a part of their plan so that they can be as healthy and mobile and free for as long as they want to be. That is a very different type of client than the person who initially gets introduced to you, which
Mhm.
is usually through a painful situation. And
Yeah.
that can be a back pain, that could be a toothache, that could be
Anything.
hyperpigmentation, that could be their gut is acting up, because we do
Mhm.
functional medicine, or they've got headaches, that's upper cervical or acupuncture. I mean, no matter what service you're providing, think about the main pain point, which goes back to SEO. What are people searching for? And what's the number one thing in your area to get them into you? And then the other stuff just helps them. Darcy, do you feel
Yeah.
like that's, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, okay. This is going to be the last thing that we talk about, because we are already, this just went by like this. Anyway, Darcy, so can you give us a last tip to how to drive more traffic to a website? Because everybody wants to have more eyes to where they can get down the funnel so that they can help more people.
Yeah. So I would say make sure that you have built out specific services pages because that's typically the way people are searching that are ready to take action. You also want to make sure, your website's mobile friendly because how many people are using phones these days? We got to get that in order. And as you start to add content to your website, like if you start to blog or anything like that, ask yourself, what are the 3 to 5 most common questions I get asked all the time? If there are continual conversations that you have over and over again, that makes amazing content for your website and it provides people with the information they're actually looking for.
That's great. Well, guys, we've been talking to Darcy Sullivan, and she is the founder of Propel Marketing and Design. And she has given us some incredible tools that we're going to be allowed to share with you. One is an SEO workshop, a ton of other resources, including a Boost Your Clinic's SEO download for you to take action today to start making, have better SEO and make more money in your clinic. And all you guys need to do is go to superclinicproject.com. We have about 5 options. If you click on the free school, you can go right to the podcast. All the downloads of everything will be right there. So just go to superclinicproject.com. Be sure to like, share. We make that easy too. You click on a button, you can review us. Please give us a review. That's how we get out to you guys. You can, even if you have a message or you want to ask Darcy a question, there is a button you just push right on our front page, and it takes you right to where you can record a message to her. And we might bring her back on the show and listen to your message and have her answer it. You never know. So you can do that as well. But thank you again, Darcy. Again, this has been Darcy Sullivan. And everybody, you guys have a great day. Thank you, Darcy.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Super Clinic Project Podcast. If you like what you hear, subscribe and stay tuned for further episodes of the Super Clinic Project Podcast.